Right, guys, welcome back to the Physique Academy podcast. This is a podcast where we talk all things training, nutrition, and lifestyle. Now, I've got a very special guest today who's traveled a long way across the UK to join us. It's AJ. What are we saying, brother?
How are you?
Yeah. So AJ is a functional medicine practitioner and nutritionist who runs Imperion Health. He works with Physique Academy clients, also with your own clients as well. You're more focused on prevention over cure. So when people get like their blood work done, you know, they might get a doctor's note, but it can be sometimes a bit vague, whereas you do like a full deep dive, you create actionable steps for people that's going to basically help them improve their health long term, not just focusing on like what they can do with the diet or the training, but things habitually as well, or things that they can implement, maybe supplementation-wise, medication-wise, all that sort of stuff. But tell us a little bit about you, mate, how this all started, how you got into blood work, everything like that.
Awesome. So it all started off with me being more in the fitness industry to begin with. So I grew up playing football. At the age of 16, I broke my leg. Now, this is what actually led me towards the gym, and that's where my passion first started for the fitness industry.
Right.
Unexpectedly, I got offered a scholarship to America. Now, I went to Oklahoma to study sports management, and then when I came back, I was a sports coach teacher for about a year. Absolutely loved it. However, what I recognised is I was more limited by being in that one space. So this is what led me to want to work with more people online. So this is where I first started out doing personal training, doing a hybrid offer where it was in person as well as online. Now, this actually ended up with me doing over 70 hours a week on the gym floor alone.
Standard.
Yes, you know how it is.
I know how it is, mate.
Now, when COVID hit, this led me to actually be able to fully run my business online. So for me, it was quite fortunate in that sense because it gave me more free time as well to build up my business, to do more research. What I also noticed over COVID is because I was very much go when I was on the gym floor, is it allowed me time to really connect with my body on a deeper level, especially as I started to do some research. So once this started to happen, what I realized is I had a lot of gut health challenges. Now, during these gut health challenges, I was going from doctor to doctor because, as mentioned, as I was doing the research, it was like, there's something more going on here. When I'd go to the doctors, they'd only do like a small panel each time. Then when I'd get my results back, they just said, everything looks fine. Now, this is them saying everything looks fine when I'm waking up in the middle of the night feeling like someone is stabbing me from the inside out. I was able to pinpoint that this was actually happening after I'd have potatoes. And it's white potatoes in particular. So when I started to do some more research, after they did diagnose me in the end with IBS, I was like, okay, interesting. So what I came across was 70% of people with IBS have SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So from this moment, I was like, this is very interesting because all the symptoms are correlating with how I'm feeling. When I go back to the doctors and I tell them I've got SIBO, they go, nah, it's rare. I'm like, how do you mean? Like the research is showing that 70% of people with IBS have SIBO. And they're like, nah, it's rare. So I just kind of got dismissed. And then I went to another doctor. Again, nah, it's rare. Another doctor. It wasn't until I found a doctor who finally went, you know what? We're going to do a test. We're going to do a SIBO test. Now, this came back as positive. So for me, I was like, oh, finally, I've got some answers here. During this time as well, during the testing, what I also got was a text message saying I've got Gilbert syndrome.
And what's Gilbert syndrome?
Gilbert's is diagnosed off someone having high total bilirubin. Now, this is where it gets very interesting, so I'm glad you asked that question. Because again, they told me that this isn't going to affect my life. But remember, at this point, I'm waking up in the middle of the night. We're going on date nights and I'm having certain meals in restaurants, which is then causing me to have very loose stools, having to run to the bathroom. Even in some circumstances, it's led to rectal bleeding. So I'm thinking, this is quite serious right now. But you're telling me that either everything looks fine or it's not affecting my life. So long story short with the Gilbert syndrome, because this can get diagnosed off just total bilirubin, but in reality, and this is where you can start to see that I become very passionate, what we should be looking into is things like your indirect and your direct bilirubin to actually tell us if you have got Gilbert's or not. We can't just go off the total bilirubin. So it's just a diagnosis at this point. So there's no real validation or any real like evidence that I definitely have it. So when you start to do the research a little bit more, you can actually see how SIBO could actually cause your bilirubin to be high due to having insufficient bile flow, which makes it hard to then break down fat. And me at this time was having high fatty meals. So as you can imagine, this is actually causing my bilirubin to go up even higher. However, once addressed and came up with some interventions to help with SIBO, this is when my bilirubin also went down. So all of a sudden, if I was to go back to the doctors and my bilirubin was lower, I suddenly wouldn't have Gilbert syndrome. But that link was never connected, if that makes sense.
It's like a domino effect, yeah. One thing leads to the other.
Yes. So they were never looking deep enough. So as I was searching, I actually came across a functional health practitioner who read my bloods. And when he read my bloods, he was able to tell me everything in which he could see. Now, this even came down to the nutritional aspect. So, for example, what he told me was that I should be having 0.8 grams of fat per kilogram of my body weight.
Right.
Also telling me that because I've got low stomach acid, I should be lowering the amount of protein I'm having or supporting stomach acid through things like apple cider vinegar, lemon, radish, ginger. Just having this before meals helps with stomach acidity, which is then going to help with the breakdown of food, which is also, again, like you said earlier, having that domino effect to help with bile sufficiency to help me break down fats as well. So as you can imagine, I'm sat here listening to everything he's rifling off. He's been able to name symptoms that I haven't told him about yet. And I'm like, how the heck have you seen this from blood work? Like, to me, this is completely Japanese. I do not understand it one bit. So as you can imagine, I already thought as a PT that I was helping my clients, which I was to a degree. But then when obviously I found out how much you could see through blood work, this is where I was like, I need to learn this. Like, this is a different level. If this has helped me so much, imagine how many more people I can help as well.
So like a light switch where you just became so passionate about it.
Yeah. Because
from your own experience.
Yeah, this is game changing. Like, this was changing my own life. Like, it wasn't just the nutrition side of things. There's the lifestyle factor side of things as well. There's also the supplementation. All of a sudden, everything I was researching, as I'm sure everyone can appreciate who's listening to this, when you research something like Gilbert, SIBO, you've got a very, very wide array of things you can take. Now, I'm taking all of these things because I'm one of them where I'm like, I'm not just going to go a little bit in. I'm going all in for this. I'm going to nuke this SIBO. But what is actually happening now, as I was doing that before I spoke with this functional health practitioner, is things were getting worse. Or they definitely weren't getting better. So again, I still wasn't able to pinpoint things. Now, again, looking at it from a different lens, yes, all of them things helped, but I was doing them at the wrong time. So what we have to appreciate is doing things at the right time. So it could be the right thing, but at the wrong time. So now what it was actually looking into the low stomach acid, for example. It was helping with the bile sufficiency. Like, let's start with nutrition first. Let's not even look into all these antibacterial herbs. Let's focus on actually getting your body's terrain, so your body's internal environment, into a healthy position first before we go in with these supplements, because these aren't going to do anything unless we've sorted this out.
Okay. So from your experience, it was lack of knowledge when you were going to like the ordinary doctors.
Yeah.
You would just find it was too generic. You know, they weren't looking deep enough. They weren't peeling back the layers of the onion. Yeah,
and this is it. So I never blame doctors. That's what we all have to appreciate. We have to appreciate the training in which they've gone through.
Yeah,
we
of
also
course.
have to appreciate that they're looking for the absence of disease.
Yeah. It's specialism.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So doctors are there to save your life. We cannot deny that. But when we're looking at it through that functional lens, it's just not the same. Like, that functional lens is looking into prevention rather than just disease. And what I actually found quite interesting is the doctor who I ended up working with, and this sounds quite strange because now I'm saying I'm working with a doctor when really you just go to the doctors to obviously get told the best next steps.
Yeah.
This doctor that I described that I started working with was actually very curious to what I was doing from a nutritional aspect. He wasn't telling me what to do because he didn't know himself. He admitted that. He was like, we're not trained to know what to do on a nutrition perspective here. So he was very curious along my health journey. So when I next saw him and I was reporting that my symptoms have got a lot better, he's there scratching his head like, how?
Oh, yeah. What
have
you done?
Yeah, so now I'm telling him. So I've almost booked in with him to try and get the next test done. So I'm researching these tests, or I'm talking with a functional health practitioner who's recommending the next best test for me. So this doctor is now working with me and he's very open. And I think it's a side note, but I want everyone to always be in a position to be open, to understand more. If more people can be like that, then we can truly obviously get into a better health position rather than having anything as an absolute definite or an absolute.
Yeah, and then you've got more direction as well, because you know what you need to actually action on. But talk to me, like, so what you do now with functional blood work.
Yeah.
If you have someone that approaches you, obviously you use more optimized ranges, right, than standard labs. That's what you're looking into.
Yes, I love this. Okay, so you've got the conventional ranges. Now,
Yes.
these are set by like the government guidelines. Okay, we work within this. Then you get the functional ranges, which are a bit more narrow. I'm hoping people are watching this so then they can see. So you get the functional ranges, which are a bit more narrow. So they fall within them conventional ranges. But as you can imagine now, because we brought them in, we're able to see a lot more early on. We've gone a step further. We actually work off the least associated cause of mortality ranges. We're also working off the latest ranges, whereas functional ranges have been around for a long time. So then we've got a question is, are they actually up to date? Because if they're not, and we've had a load of studies done in high populations, then they're not actually 100% accurate. So I'm always going off the latest data. So I'm going to call these the superhuman ranges for now. Now, by bringing in the ranges even more, we're able to see deficiencies, dysfunctions, and imbalances even earlier. Now, again, coming back to what I said earlier, like I appreciate doctors, I appreciate the conventional ranges still, because obviously, as you can imagine, if we're working off the least associated cause of mortality, it can make people go, oh, I've got a lot which are high and low. Yes, you have. But that's because obviously, as you can imagine in this world, there's a lot of deficiencies right now. That's what's actually leading to the dysfunctions and the imbalances.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. So with a doctor, it's more looking for actual diseases, whereas with like a functional practitioner, you're more looking at, are you actually thriving? You know,
Yes.
are you actually preventing these potential deficiencies that you might have? Because like, say, for example, you know, people that wake up in the morning with fatigue, but they train every day, they live a healthy lifestyle. That people think, what am I doing wrong? Like, why am I so fatigued or tired all the time? I actually wanted to speak to you about, because I've said to you before we started recording, you know, I've done a little bit here and there at university when I was at Lancaster doing my sports science degree in like physiology, and my dissertation was on cortisol.
Yep.
And I teach Blaze at David Lloyd, or used to teach Blaze. And I had 21 participants come to the studio. They did a swab to measure the cortisol, but they also did like a form that told me exactly how much sleep they've got, what the quality of sleep was like, how they felt, etc., etc.
Nice.
Numerous questions. And obviously, my hypothesis was the less sleep you've got, the higher change in cortisol. The higher change in cortisol, the more cardiovascular strain you're going to have, therefore the more fatigue you're going to have. And again, you know, once you actually identify, like, it might just be something habitual, like someone might train 6 days a week, but if they're only getting 5 hours of sleep, they're not performing or living at their most optimal.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I love this, because what we have is we work off this model called the hierarchy of health. This was basically based off something called the priority of dysfunction, which was created by the Institute of Health. So with this hierarchy of health, what we look into first and foremost is the foundations. So I'm going to come back a little bit first, and then I'm going to jump forward again. So coming back to, as we were saying with the functional ranges, anyone can access these optimal ranges, as I say, because they've been around for so long now. We could just go on an AI tool, for example, and we could find them. But what we have to appreciate is blood work goes much further than even the ranges, okay? So what we also want to be looking into, we want to look into how we correlate certain blood markers as well. So for example, if we're seeing low hemoglobin, for example, we're seeing low red blood cells, we're seeing low hematocrit, that could mean a number of things, as I'm sure you're aware. So if we look at it from a deficiency perspective, so let's say they're within conventional ranges, but they're just outside the functional ranges or these least associated cause of mortality ranges, let's look into the deficiencies first. I'm going to explain why in a minute. So if we look into them deficiencies, we could be looking into things like B6, B9, B12, zinc, iron, copper, okay? But as you can see there's a number of different deficiencies. So this is why we can't just go off that blood marker. We want to look into other blood markers. So if I'm looking to iron, I'm actually going to look into transferrin saturation, or then I'm going to look into ferritin. A lot of people don't only look into iron. As you know, if you go to the doctors, they may just test your iron. In reality, iron is not the most accurate or reliable marker because it can fluctuate so much. So we want to be looking into transferrin saturation first, dropping below 20%, and then looking into low ferritin. So now that confirms why we're seeing low hemoglobin, hematocrit, and red blood cells. But let's say that isn't the case. Let's go with zinc, for example. We then want to look into ALP. If your ALP is low, then we know that is strongly associated to a zinc deficiency. So now it makes sense to why the hemoglobin, red blood cells, and hematocrit are low. Does that now make sense? Or we could go the other way. If you're seeing iron high, you're seeing your transferrin saturation high, that might tell us more about B6, B9, B12 deficiency. This is without us going off this nutritional status from this blood panel, because with the nutritional status, even the ones that are going with your serum B12, your serum zinc, your serum magnesium, they are not the most accurate markers to go off.
I was just going to say, so it's more of like a validity.
Yes.
Reliability
because
issue.
When you start looking to serum markers, don't get me wrong, they're all slightly different, but let's go with like magnesium, zinc. That's only showing 0.1% of the representation of what's happening in the rest of your body. So if you're going off just magnesium and zinc, then actually you're missing the big picture. You need to be looking into the other markers to validate actually having this deficiency. So we shouldn't be looking into just the nutritional status, because that can be changed from all sorts, especially if someone's supplementing in the lead up to the test. Let's say they've taken magnesium the night before. Of course, you're going to see your magnesium potentially in an optimal level or high. Yeah, we see it all the time with B12. Just because someone's serum B12 is high, it doesn't mean they've suddenly got too much B12 circulating. It may mean that they're not metabolizing it and they're not utilizing it correctly, or they can still have a functional deficiency. So this is why we always need to be looking above and beyond. Does that make sense?
yeah, 100%. Yeah, so it's, if I went to test my zinc today and then supplemented with zinc today, but if I go again tomorrow, say if it was low today and I go again tomorrow, then it could be within the normal healthy ranges.
So we want to look into, obviously, context. Context is always king, as you know. We need more context. We need to appreciate half-life of things. That's why this will be very useful for everyone. We want to be looking into a pre-blood protocol as well. So what I mean by that is not training for 72 hours, making sure you haven't had an ice bath, making sure you haven't been in the sauna for 3 days. Even red light therapy, we want to be cautious of. We want to make sure you haven't taken certain supplements for maybe a week or 2 weeks, depending if it's a water-soluble vitamin or a fat-soluble vitamin. So truly, what we actually want from a blood test is to be able to get the most accurate and reliable results. Otherwise, you don't really know, you don't have that validation or evidence in what it's shown, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So even the prep before your blood work has to be considered.
Right, okay. So when you have, someone that wants to work with you, you will onboard them, take them through all these steps before they actually start, opting in for the blood work.
Yeah, because as you can imagine, from my perspective,
you want it as accurate as possible.
I need accurate and reliable results. It's not just me that needs that. You need that. First and foremost, you need the most reliable results you can get in order to truly know how to help yourself optimize your health going forward.
I suppose it's pointless otherwise, isn't it? Because
it's inaccurate.
Yeah.
Like if you've trained, you are most likely going to see your AST and your ALT levels high. Now, if I see that and I don't know that you've trained, I'm looking into your detoxification, your drainage pathways. I'm looking into the way in which you're digesting fats, when in reality, it's just because you trained the day before. So all of a sudden, this now changes your protocol completely. So we need to be following a pre-blood protocol in order to know exactly what is happening and why it's happening. And that comes back to the context.
I hear you. So when with guys that we work with on the Physique Academy program, we cover a lot in the check-in process, as you're well aware, a lot on the habit side.
Yes.
What habits do you think are the most important to be managing things, again, without taking that? Like my mum, for example, she takes magnesium, zinc, all these different things, like throughout the day. And she has to like keep it all on her notes so she knows that she's taking each thing. It's like in an ideal world, well, money-wise, we want to be spending less on like supplementation or medication, but also we want to just feel as though we're not having to like riddle our bodies with all this stuff.
Yeah, so, rattling with pills.
Yeah, literally. So like habit-wise, again, I was speaking about a little bit about sleep.
Yep.
What sort of things are you mainly like focusing on if you're like helping someone or coaching someone?
Perfect. This brings us back to the hierarchy of health in which I was explaining before. So jumping forward to here again.
Yeah.
So with the foundations, what we've got on this right side, we've got your upper GI. So we want to understand how you're breaking down foods, how you're absorbing and assimilating them.
Glycemic index.
No, so gastrointestinal tract.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's good. So because if someone else is listening and thinking that, we've now just clarified it. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's all right.
So we want to be looking to the upper gastrointestinal tract. Now, this brings back to, as I was saying earlier, like low stomach acid. If I wasn't to address low stomach acid, then good luck getting me into a healthier position because this is part of the upper GI system. We want to be looking to nutrient deficiencies as well. Now, let's say if someone hasn't done a blood test, then of course we're going to be looking at that from a whole food perspective, like making sure obviously that their food has a wide array of different micronutrients and that they're, again, upper GI absorbing and assimilating them well. The next bit would be around stress. The only thing is stress is as I explain it, a massive umbrella. Like it could mean absolutely anything. Where is that stress coming from? How much is actually perceived versus obviously what's actually happening? So with that, what we want to consider is people's mental health. We want to consider their physical health. Coming back to the nutritional side of things as well, if someone's in a stress position, as I'm sure a lot of us who are listening are very much business people, we go, go, go. So that means we're constantly in a sympathetic state, which is fight or flight. But in reality, when we eat, we need to be in a parasympathetic state, which is rest and digest. Like if we break it up like that, rest and digest, why are we eating on the go? Mm-hmm. We need to actually have our, let's go with heart rate below 70 beats per minute, ideally. And that way we're in that parasympathetic state.
And like mindful eating.
Yes,
like that.
making sure obviously we're chewing our foods, making sure that we're also in a designated area for eating. So we're not eating at our desk because we associate that to work. So of course we're going to be more stressed there as well.
Yeah.
So there's that. There's also one of the biggest ones that I see a lot of people miss is their environment. You're only going to be as successful as your environment. Now, yes, I'm talking about like relationships, the people around you, even pets are to be considered as well. That's another story, but even your pets are going to obviously play a role here.
Yeah.
There's other things like obviously which is rife in the UK at the moment, which is mold as well. So obviously, as you can imagine, if you've got an illness or you're not feeling 100%, but yet your environment is there working against you, then it's going to be very hard to move the needle, if at all. So coming back to the mold side of things, if you're trying to obviously heal, but you've got mold around you, which is obviously adding to your symptoms, then it's basically like trying to get dry in the shower.
Right, so environment matters a lot.
Huge. So what we do is we make sure that everyone goes for an environmental assessment as they on board. So therefore, what they can start to do is see actually what is around them in which they can make small changes with. As you can see here, I mean, I'm drinking out of a stainless steel cup rather than going to a coffee shop and getting a cardboard takeaway cup, which can then obviously leach in microplastics. I'm having stainless steel. Now, don't get me wrong, like this is where it comes back to how far do we take it with health as well. As I say, if your body's terrain's in a good position, is this really going to make a difference? Of course, we can think about the compounding effect, the accumulation, but if my health's very good, then okay, having it out of a takeaway cup every now and then, it's going to be all right.
Yeah, fine, yeah.
But it really does come down to, again, what our environment is like, what our body's, obviously, environment is like, and our body's terrain is like. And then what we also have on that foundational aspect as well is hydration and electrolytes. And I know you guys are big on is making sure that someone is adequately hydrated, making sure that they're having electrolytes if they're sweating. Because again, if there's an imbalance with your electrolytes, how can we expect to truly repair, heal, and optimize? Mm-hmm. So those are the foundations I'd look into. So upper GI, nutrient deficiencies, your stress, your mental health, your physical health, your environment, your hydration, and your electrolyte balance. So never just think hydration is drinking more water.
Holland's venture, mate. Going back to the environment, now I had a personal question because I own, you said about pets.
Yes.
All right. And I have 2 golden retrievers.
Yeah.
That molt a lot.
Yeah.
Again, so what sort of impact will that have for me, for example?
Awesome. So it really depends again on obviously where your body's terrain is.
Yeah.
Because let's say if your body's terrain is in a really good position, then we know, again, that's going to have little to no effect because you're doing other big things. You're obviously you're obviously looking into the big rocks. Now, what we could look into is like the fur sort of things from pets. Like, is that affecting your breathing? Is that creating a lot of fur in the environment, which is then obviously creating more dysfunctional breathing long term? Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, we know people who have allergies to pets, for example, or if a dog sheds a lot, then obviously they can feel more congested in the sinuses. So it's affecting, again, their breathing pathways. Mm-hmm. So there's that aspect. There's also the aspect of if we think about what dogs like to do or pets like to do, they can obviously play outside a lot.
Yep.
So they could be licking certain things, which could then lead to your dog having potential parasites. Your dog then gets parasites and then you let your dog lick your face. Now, all of a sudden, the dog has passed on parasites to you. Now, this is not me saying for anyone to not get pets, obviously, because pets pets are incredible and they help so much on a mental health perspective as well.
Yeah.
But there are other things we can look into. Like we could go down so many different holes. Like what we actually had, this is a really cool story. We actually did have one of our clients' pets get diagnosed with a rare disease that was incurable, okay? So it couldn't be reversed. When they told us this, I was like, this is interesting because you and your partner both have parasites, okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to start feeding your dog stuff like shredded carrots. I want you to have blended pumpkin seeds in there for your dog as well. I want you to put some apple cider vinegar in there for your dog as well. And they're thinking, all right, sounds cool. Like they are all on board with the holistic approach here. Anyway, they just do it. They take the dog back. The dog gets tested because they have to keep getting tested for this very rare disease. Gets tested, comes back with negative. There is no like disease there. So you can imagine that the vets, they're a bit like, this is strange. Retest, negative again. Nah, can't be right. Retest, negative again. And it's kind of like, hang on a minute. By obviously looking into interventions for the dog, that's obviously helped the dog obviously now cure from this disease, which is uncurable apparently. And at the same time, obviously, they've also got rid of parasites as well. So when I say environment, I don't even mean just in like your house environment. Like
what you can see.
Yeah, definitely. I'm also thinking about the relationships in which you have as well. Also the people in which you hang around with. So if we look into obviously like something like Helicobacter pylori, which is present in over 50% of the population at the moment, it's a bacterial overgrowth, but it's very easy to basically transmit it. So obviously what could happen is you and I could share a cup or knife and forks, for example, and that could obviously spread the H. pylori that way. Or obviously if we get a new partner, let's say, and they've got H. pylori, but they haven't had a blood test, so therefore they don't know about it. So then they give you H. pylori. So then there's suddenly this mismanagement of H. pylori, because H. pylori can be protective. But again, this is where I want to get.
And what's that, sorry?
Helicobacter pylori.
Helicobacter.
Yeah, which over 50%, it's a hard one to say, isn't it? Which over 50% of the population have as well. And you can get it from obviously third world countries as well. So if you imagine, a lot of us have been to Bali, right? So obviously it could be absolutely rife there as well. So again, it's kind of like, my biggest thing is never the fear mongering, like we said about obviously pets earlier. Like, so what if there's H. pylori? It's more about looking at it from is it just mismanaged? How again do we set your body up to be in a position where it can naturally remove and eliminate toxins or overgrowths? Like if you're all fine, happy days. Recently we had a client go to Bali, got dengue fever, come back, and then they fell chronically ill. Strangely, their house was making them more ill, but it wasn't before. The reason why it is now is because they got dengue fever. They became immunocompromised. When they came back to their house, which was riddled with mold, it just made them worse. But they didn't feel it before because their body was in a much more resilient state. So that shows the difference of it really depends on your body's terrain. And that's when we want to come back and we actually want to look at it from obviously, again, from the ground up, like the nutrient deficiencies, your upper GI, your environment, as we just said as well. Just so then if that person came back from Bali and didn't have mold in his house, as you can imagine, he'd repair and heal a lot quicker.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Damn. I wanted to ask you as well about going back to stress.
Yes.
Again, another big lifestyle factor. Like you say, you know, people can get stressed from work. They can have family stress, relationship stress. You know, it's hard to pinpoint where it's actually coming from.
Yes.
When I got my bloods done or hormones done, and I got my test done, I got a doctor's note back. And it said, because I've sometimes can get bad skin. So the main reason for me is I wanted to check, you know, is there anything there that's actually going to be affecting my skin? And the doctor said, you've got very high, or no, slightly higher on the range of DHEA sulfate.
I was going to say, please tell me you got that one done. So good.
But with the lifestyle analysis, I was like, well, okay, what do I do then to bring that down? So then my skin doesn't get as bad and creates more oil and less stress, de-stress. And is that the only intervention you think for DHEA sulfate? Then I would need to action, just lower my stress. But then I was like, oh, brilliant. Yeah, just simple as that. Just lower your stress. Right. How am I meant to just lower my stress?
Yeah, exactly. Stress comes from multiple different avenues. And this is the problem. Like a lot of the times people look at things in isolation. We should never be looking at that. We should always be looking into a multifaceted approach. So what I mean by that is, yes, obviously trying to reduce stress through your lifestyle is going to be absolutely key. But also, are you actually aware of what foods could be causing more stress within your body? Because a lot of people they do not realize that.
The causes.
So say if you've also got a deficiency in zinc, which can very much be one of the root causes of a compromised skin barrier integrity. So what would be interesting to know if your ALP was low, for example, or your white blood cells low. And when I say low, obviously we're not talking about it from a conventional lens. Remember, they're not looking into deficiencies.
No.
So if we were to look into your blood work, it'd be very interesting to see what ones you are low in, your deficiencies, and that way we can look at that through either nutrition or, if we need to, short-term supplementation, whilst also looking into the way that you're digesting your foods as well, as we mentioned, because low stomach acid could actually cause a zinc deficiency. Because what low stomach acid does is it impairs the way you break down protein. What is protein rich in? Things like B12 and zinc. So now all of a sudden, if you're zinc deficient, then of course you're going to have some skin barrier integrity, which is being compromised. So yeah, basically what I'm trying to say is never think of it as just a simple reducing your stress. Like, what the heck does that mean? Like, yes, you can look at it from a meditation perspective. You can look at it from a breathwork perspective.
Like habitual.
Yeah, but what else are you doing to help with that? Because that's only going to move the needle so much. If you're not then looking into your nutrition, or you're looking at it from a supplemental perspective, good luck.
I just wanted to say for the audience watching, this is exactly what AJ, specializes in, is all about peeling back the layers of the onion.
Yes.
Stress. Okay. Zinc leads to this, ALP, all these things. You might have like leaky gut, or like you might have something. Okay.
Yeah. Now we're talking. Now we're talking.
The key words
He's
out.
bringing in intestinal permeability. We like it.
But like I said, this is why, people might think, well, I can get my blood work done at a doctor's, but then functional blood work goes that much deeper again. So you actually have a real actionable step, and that's what I was left with when I just sort of then, okay, well, I need to lower my stress.
Yeah.
But then it's also about what you're putting into your body that can be causing that as well.
Yeah, it's not coming at it from an overview lens. So basically, if we look into the hierarchy of health again, okay, your hormones are actually part of level 5. So obviously we mentioned the foundations earlier with the upper GI, with the nutrient deficiencies, with your mental health, with your environment, with your electrolytes, with your hydration. That's your foundation. Then you've got your skin barrier integrities, because as I mentioned earlier, part of that level 2, yes, we're looking to barrier integrity, so your skin, we're looking to your detoxification pathways, we're looking to your drainage pathways. But again, if you look into what helps with all of these, it's them nutrient deficiencies and the way you're breaking down food. Mm-hmm. So that's part of, obviously, that level 2. You're going to probably need more than just the foundations to help with that. However, the foundations are the foundations. Mm-hmm. They're the building blocks. We have to start there before we move on to phase 2. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, we're moving too early. So again, we could be taking the wrong thing at the wrong time. Mm-hmm. Then we've got obviously this level 3, which is more to do with the pathogens. So as I was mentioning earlier, like mold. So we could be looking into candida. We could be looking into certain fungal overgrowths. We could be looking into bacteria. We could be looking into parasites, for example. So that's part of the level 3. Because again, if we're going in with antimicrobials or these antibacterial herbs as mentioned, but you've got leaky gut, what's now happening is as you start to obviously remove the overgrowth, let's say, if you haven't opened up your detoxification pathways and your drainage pathways, where are them toxins going to go? Mm-hmm. Because it creates this die-off, right? Mm-hmm. You're just going to be recirculating it, which is going to cause more harm than good. So now you can start to see why we've come up with these phases, this hierarchy of health. So we'd go into that phase 3 knowing that phase 1 and 2 have just been optimized. Then you've got your phase 4, which is to do with the thyroid regulation and your blood sugar management. Because again, why are these being dysregulated? It could be because of the pathogens. It could be because of your barrier integrity. It could be because of your detoxification pathways. It could be down to, let's go stick with the thyroid for a second. If we look into some of the most common things that are needed for your thyroid to function optimally, we're looking into maybe iodine, tyrosine, zinc, selenium. So it still comes back to the foundations where it's these nutrient deficiencies, which then has the knock-on effect over here.
Can I just ask you something on thyroid?
Yes.
Yes. So calorie restriction.
Yes.
Metabolism, sometimes with clients that we work with, right, we keep, chipping the calories down. As they lose weight, the maintenance calories are obviously dropping. So, they're consuming less food, but then they might get to a certain point. They feel as though they're keeping super, super, super consistent with their deficit. Come to check in, still the same weight, or in fact, the weight's actually gone up. There's been no off-plan sugar. So again, or a coach is reviewing that person's check-in over the last week. And then you're racking your brain around it and thinking, what could this actually be? Is it down to is it like a thyroid issue?
Regulated thyroid, potentially, but it still comes back to like if someone's in a deficit, right? Mm-hmm. What are they having less of? Which is down here, micronutrients. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden, you're creating more deficiencies the longer we're in a deficit. So as you know, this is why we want to take a cyclical approach. And this is why obviously a lot of successful plans are going to be deficit, maintenance, then maybe a surplus so they can have more micronutrients, and then let's come back to the deficit.
Or like just scheduling in, road mapping a refeed week.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So then they can get that micronutrients in abundance. And I'm sure you've seen it before with your clients where when they've had a refeed, they've actually dropped weight and you're like, what the heck?
Yeah.
And it's because their body's now functioning. They've been craving their micronutrients, which they haven't been getting because they've been in a deficit.
I did actually have a research nugget which I pulled out, which I saw recently, that said low T3 after calorie restriction impairs metabolism and recovery, having hypothyroidism as a result from long extreme calorie restriction.
Yes. So look into the reasons why someone can have low T3. Look into it early on as well from a functional perspective, and it can be down to a zinc and a selenium deficiency. So again, what I would do, let's say if someone has been in a deficit for a certain period of time, I would safeguard it because already we know that they're not going to be getting as much zinc or selenium. So this way we can obviously help with the T3 there. Does that make sense? Because they're not getting
of course,
food. There's also the other element, which comes back to what you said earlier around the stress. Now, this stress could be coming from them not getting enough micronutrients. The stress could be coming from them psychologically wanting to lose weight and then becoming frustrated. So therefore, obviously, they don't see food as enjoyable anymore. They're just having it for the sake of it, hoping that they're then going to lose weight. That, now, the biggest thing around that, and this is why we could see a change after a refeed, is because now they feel that freedom. They can feel like they can have the food. They're enjoying it again. So actually, it's not even so much about the micronutrients, even though that plays a huge role. It could literally just look at it from a stress perspective. Like there is so much more research now, which is emerging around stress modulation and the benefits it has for your health. So it's so obvious, but it's just nice to now see in literature as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, like it backs exactly what you're saying. Research. But what's the most important biomarkers that you personally think are to be investigated? Is it hormone? Is it gut and digestion? Is it immunity?
100% not hormones.
No.
And I know a lot of people are going to want to look into obviously hormones, but kind of like I said earlier, let's look into, obviously a lot of people who will be listening now going to be most interested in testosterone or total testosterone. Okay. Now let's go a little bit deeper. Let's look into what are the most researched vitamins and minerals to help with testosterone. Comes back down to the foundation.
Natural
you're going to
boosters.
see zinc and you're going to see vitamin D. So if you've got the deficiency in these, of course, it's going to affect your testosterone. So rather than looking at it for a tonka alley, for a boron, for a tribulus, for a fenugreek perspective, actually look at it from the foundation. Start to get the building blocks, and that's then going to help with your testosterone. What do you think?
So, what's your standpoint on like these natural test boosters you can get?
From research, I believe they have only, I say only, it's still a percentage, which is good, and we all love obviously a 1% gain. But I believe from the latest research in which I've seen, it could be anywhere from 10 to 30%. So let's say it's 30%. Let's just go with the upper end. What are you doing for the other 70%? Because if you're just relying on testosterone boosters, and I'm sure people listening to this would have taken testosterone boosters before, and they may have not seen much of an improvement, it's because, again, you can't just look at it through a supplemental lens. You can't just look at it through a testosterone boosting lens. We still have to be thinking about what else is going on in your life. Kind of like you said earlier, how you sleep in. Stressors like artificial lights, for example. Again, that's part of the environment as well.
Yeah.
We could be looking at it from how you're training. For example, are you doing high intense exercise? Are you trying to run marathons, but yet you've got this low like testosterone? This is quite interesting actually. And a lot of younger males that I see doing longer runs, I'm seeing their testosterone a lot lower because they're putting a lot of stress on their body. So again, we have to still be thinking about, and this could even come back to obviously then they're burning a lot more, which is then leading to the micronutrient deficiencies. So now you can see why I'm like, you just need your blood work to see what's going to be best for you. And most importantly, from your blood work, what is the multifaceted approach which is going to get you to optimize your health.
Resistance training creates more natural testosterone, doesn't it, than like any cardiovascular activity?
Yeah, definitely. For me, and I'm sure some other males listening, like after you train legs, that's when you feel most alpha. That's when your libido shoots through the roof. Your sex drive has gone up and you just trained the hardest muscle in your body because it's like, it's that drive in which you get from it. So yeah, resistance training in order to boost your testosterone is going to be the best bang for your buck when we're looking at it from a training perspective.
Cool, brother. Cool. So going back to the original question.
Yes, sorry. Always go off tangents.
Yeah, mate, it's fine. Absolutely fine. What do you think is the most important biomarker?
Okay, this is very interesting because I actually mentor doctors, practitioners, naturopaths, and other health professionals. And what I always get them to look into first is the full blood count. This is still only one element, but this is quite interesting. So do you remember how I said earlier about the low hemoglobin, the low hematocrit, and the low red blood cells? We're just going to stick with that for a second.
Yeah.
Because obviously that alone could tell us about like B6, B9, B12 deficiency. We could then move over onto MCV, which is also part of the full blood count. Let's say if we're then seeing high MCV, this could also tell us about a B9, B12 deficiency. Whereas if it's low, it could tell us more that it's towards a B6 deficiency. Or we're seeing low MCH and low MCHC. That's now confirming that it's more about B6 or maybe iron. Whereas if we're seeing them high, it's telling us more about B9, B12. Then we could move on to white blood cells. Let's say white blood cells are low. That again could tell us about B6, B9, B12. So it could tell us that there's a transportation block, a methylation issue, for example. And it could even tell us about a zinc deficiency, which could also link to the high MCV and the low hemoglobin. So I absolutely love a full blood count. Now, to go a little bit more in depth with this as well, you have your differential cell counts as well. So you've got your things like your neutrophils, your lymphocytes, your eosinophils, your monocytes, and your basophils. You can look into the absolute values alongside the total white blood cell count, and you can start to work out percentages from these as well. Now, from these percentages, this can also tell you about a pathogenic load. So this could actually tell you if it's looking more like it's going to be to do with bacteria, if it's going to be more of a viral load, if it's going to be more to do with parasites. So just hold it here because this is very interesting. So imagine if we've got like high monocytes and high eosinophils. Again, functional ranges or the least associated cause of mortality ranges. We've got these that are high, okay? We've also got the fact that your hemoglobin, red blood cells, and hematocrit are low. Now we're like, oh, what do parasites do? Obviously, we know that it can affect iron, for example. So your iron could be lower. Hemoglobin, red blood cells, hematocrit being low could lead to, obviously, an iron deficiency. It could mean that, remember, could, because we need to look into more. Now we've got your monocytes and your parasite, and your monocytes and your eosinophils, which are leading to parasites, as well as all of these being low. So now you're like, wow, looks like it's parasites, right? Let's take them away. Let's look into high neutrophils and low lymphocytes. That could tell us more about a bacterial overgrowth. Let's look into high lymphocytes and low neutrophils, so the other way around. That could tell us more about a viral load. So now it's like, whoa, we can actually see so much for a full blood count. We still need to see the rest of the panels to confirm actually what's going on. Because again, like I said earlier, it's all well and good knowing what overgrowth you've got or pathogenic load. But in reality, how is this affecting the rest of your body? So for me, it's very hard to say this is the most important panel because to me, every single one is important.
Is important, yeah.
Yeah, and that actually then allows us to come back down to the foundations. What I would say for anyone who doesn't feel like a blood test is cost effective, I'd actually look at this very differently and think, how could you save up for this blood test? Because it's going to be life changing for you. So rather than going to a certain restaurant or going on certain nights out or maybe going for that weekend away, could you actually save up for this blood test, which at the end of the day is going to give you more quality of life?
Be able to thrive, prevention over cure.
Yeah, because how many people do we know that go away, but they don't necessarily... I was actually listening to someone over breakfast earlier. Yeah. Sorry to my partner who's also here and listening in, but I overheard their conversation and she was saying that she went away for the weekend with her partner, but she couldn't enjoy it due to the way in which like she couldn't enjoy it due to the way in which she was feeling within herself. So now you're thinking, hang on a minute, there's so many people that are going away wanting to enjoy certain events, but yet they can't.
Gut issues, heartburn, all these things. Yeah, that again is going to be playing on the mind.
Yeah, and that's what happened to me. I remember it so well. So again, with my partner, we went to a Christmas market. This was our first Christmas market together.
Is this in Manchester?
No, this was in Birmingham. And I was like, we need to leave. And she's like, what? I was like, we need to leave. She's like, why? I'm like, I need the toilet. And I have just hit the panic button. And if anyone knows, when you need the toilet, you do not care about anything else. You are just tunnel vision. You're like, I need this toilet. Otherwise, things are going to end badly. They're going to end badly anyway, but they're going to end a lot more
for anyone
worse.
Bus here, Mark.
Yeah, this is me, though. This is me, fortunately. But this is what I mean. Like we were out at this Christmas market with another couple, meant to be enjoying like a double date thing. but we couldn't because I had to leave early. So now it's kind of like, wow, this has got to a point where it is well and truly affecting my life. But now I could go to a Christmas event, I can have these foods, I can enjoy my time there, and therefore I'm going to actually be able to get a better memory rather than coming to a podcast and telling people how I almost pooped myself. Makes a big difference, right?
Yeah,
Even
it
it's
does,
a story,
bro.
which is great, but it's not a good story for me.
It's not a good story. You'd mentioned to me before we started recording that you haven't actually drunk alcohol since 2021.
Correct.
Yes. And is that mainly for your health benefits?
Yeah, it just doesn't have any appeal to me anymore, being completely honest. Like, I've got to the point now where I'll go on a night out and people will know that I'm not going to drink. So it's gone past that stage where people are saying, oh, you're boring, or you won't drink. Yeah, actually, they're like, oh, no, AJ, he doesn't drink. That's fantastic. They're saying it for me now, which is fantastic. But I'm still being invited on these nights out because obviously I'm fully enjoying them. I am fully present. If they start to get more drunk, then actually that's great for me because I can memorize it for them because they ain't going to remember. So I'm actually now enjoying the full night, because when I used to go on nights out, it would get to a point where obviously, as you know, you can just black out or you just can't fully remember the night. Whereas I want to be able to enjoy every single moment. And we all know the next day, it never feels good. Like, I've got a few Christmases in which I remember for the wrong reasons, where I couldn't even have Christmas dinner because I just felt like utter crap.
That anxiety as well, where you just can't remember what you said to people. We're still friends, right?
Yeah. So this is it. Your anxiety can increase like 30 to 40% for the 3 days after drinking. That just isn't worth it. Like, by the time you've come back to a position where you feel normal again, it's Friday again. It's like, oh my God.
Like,
vicious circle.
I'm going to say it only. I'm 25, right? Yeah. And I'm starting to get to the age now where, like, you think when you're 18, 19 and you go on a night out, like, by the end of the next night, you might be rough in the morning, but by the end of the next night, you're absolutely fine. Now it's like 2, maybe even 3 day hangover. Yes. So you go out on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, you're still recovering, right? Feel fine Wednesday, Thursday, then you might start again on Friday. It's like you've only got 2 days of like feeling like at your most optimum in the week. Yeah, the way I look at everything in life, and obviously everyone's entitled to look at it through their own lens, but how I like to look at life is, does this serve me a purpose? Like, I know alcohol doesn't serve me a purpose. Maybe if we go out for like a nice steak, we're at a really nice restaurant, some organic red wine, I might be more tempted then because it might just be part of the experience, for example. But it's not about going to like a nightclub after for me, because that doesn't serve me a purpose. That's just going to knock my circadian rhythm. I know what that's then going to do for my health. But you're thinking more long term.
Yeah, a lot of people change their perspective once they've seen their blood work, because we never truly know what's going on inside us until we get that blood work. And it can be very eye-opening. And you'll see a lot of the analysis and findings in which I do, I actually say early warning signs, which is amazing, because it's like, okay, so you're not at this position yet where obviously it's going to cause a chronic illness, but we are seeing earlier that if you continue the way you are, then obviously we can see things trending in the wrong direction. So now you've got to look at it as if, like, say, if your lifestyle, is that serving you a purpose, or do you want things to actually start to trend in the right direction to the point where you are optimizing things, where you're showing up every day for yourself, your relationships are better, you're able to produce better work, you've got much better cognitive function. So for me, it's a no-brainer, especially seeing as every day I'm working, I want to be there for my clients and I want to be able to give them 100%. So that's just the way I look at life. Like, does it serve me a purpose? Yes, fantastic. If not, what's the point?
Yeah, I completely get what you're saying, bro. Like, it enhances your creativity, productivity, energy creates energy, you know, like if you've not got any sleep and you've been pissed the night before, then you're just going to feel like utter crap for a few days after. But some people, again, for some reason I keep going back to stress, but like if the people have got more stress in their lifestyles, you know, people like that unwind button, you know, they like to switch off, have a few beers. How much is that? Like, I'm not talking like clubs, nights out, you know, paralytically drunk. If people just like to have a few drinks, that's still, again, it's balanced, it's still okay, but
I don't demonize anything, okay? That's one thing I want everyone to know. And I'm not biased towards anything either. What I work off is evidence. So what I mean by this is, there's some people, as we know, are just genetic freaks. So I read someone's bloods the other day and they are out every single weekend. But yet, what is it that we know alcohol affects when it comes to your blood work? The liver, okay? I look into their liver panel. It's one of the best liver panels I've ever seen. And I'm like, wow.
God likes you, bro.
Yeah, and then I read her daughter's bloods as well. And her daughter, being a lot younger, you can imagine she's out quite a lot. Read her daughter's blood again. perfect panel when it came to liver. I was like, these guys are just genetic freaks.
I was going to say, it must be down to genetic disposition, 100%.
There we go. So this is awesome. Okay, so now we're going to come to genetic testing, because this is one of the biggest questions I get is like, why would I go for blood test when I could get a genetic testing? Or AJ, is a genetic test worth it? For me, being completely honest, it's okay. It's nice to have data, okay? But it's only showing your predispositions. It's not a current snapshot into what's happening now. It's not showing you what gene has been activated or expressed. So coming back to the blood work, and like I was saying earlier, I actually mentioned about there being like a transportation block, a methylation issue with your B6, B9, B12. That current blood work is already telling us that. But it's also telling us that actually it could be the low stomach acid, which is affecting the way that you utilize and metabolize the B9, the B12, the B6. It could be that your liver is overburdened. So therefore going in with methylated things actually would cause even more stress for your liver right now. So for me, it's like genetic test is fine, but it's not telling you exactly what's happening now. We need to understand what is happening now to help reduce the risk of obviously certain genes being expressed and activated earlier on. Because at the end of the day, everyone's heard this phrase, the genes load the gun, but you pull the trigger. So find out from your blood work how to reduce the chances of that trigger being pulled by yourself.
I like that. You're the one that pulls the trigger, bro.
Yes. Health is within your own hands. You have to take health in your own hands, especially if we're looking at it from a prevention perspective.
Yeah.
And this is my biggest thing, as you know, and as you can probably see from this podcast, is the education aspect of it. And it's also not being biased, not demonizing things, coming back to that evidence, like they were absolutely fine, but I could look into someone else's blood work where they have alcohol maybe 2 or 3 times a month, but yet their liver enzymes are through the roof. So therefore, having alcohol for them isn't going to be beneficial because they're not eliminating or removing waste and toxins effectively. Whereas these girls over here, they're loving life.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Because they're genetically gifted there.
Life, yeah.
So it's very different, and we can never treat one person the same. And actually come into something that you mentioned earlier, because this is something that I'm seeing a lot at the moment, is certain protocols are being made by certain practitioners. What I mean by that is people are looking at a diagnosis and going in with a protocol for that diagnosis. So if we look into, I'm trying to think of a health condition here that would be more common, but let's just take a health condition and then we look into that protocol. That protocol may work for you, Ash, but it doesn't mean it's going to work for Dave down the road. Like we have to look at everything individually. So what I did yesterday, this was really cool. I actually went over this with a different practitioner, is we looked into 2 people with the same condition, but what we were seeing is they were at opposite ends. Okay, so one had transcellular leaky gut, which is a lot more severe. You could see this even from their white blood cells being chronically low. The other one had immune resilience. Their white blood cells were lovely. They also only had paracellular leaky gut. So they were only, obviously, like their tight junctions only had small gaps compared to the other one. So with leaky gut, because you mentioned it earlier, it's not just knowing that you've got leaky gut, it's what type of leaky gut as well. So when we look into leaky gut, paracellular, we're more looking into like the shoelaces being undone, and your stones can obviously then get into the shoe.
Yep.
Whereas with transcellular, you've got holes underneath the shoe.
Like a sieve.
Yes. So it's a lot more severe. So now we have to understand, okay, if someone's got transcellular, then this could take 3 months, 6 months to repair. This paracellular over here may only take 4 weeks to obviously repair. So this is why we have to never just look at that diagnosis, never just look into that health condition. We have to be understanding what are the knock-on effects from that health condition. There's also different type of health conditions as well. So we have to understand what's driving that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, mate, yeah. It's interesting stuff, honestly. I'm learning a lot, mate. I'm learning a lot. I wanted to move on, though, to like peptides. What's your standpoint on, I think I saw on George's video,
yes,
like Wolverine stack.
Yeah, Wolverine stack, which is BPC 157 and TB 500,
which is more for, is that for like more recovery, repair?
It is, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, where do I go with this one? Okay, so again, coming back to blood work, we want to actually find out not just blood work. When I say blood work, sorry, I just mean within what we do within the program. We don't just look into your blood work, we look into your health screening form as well. And what I mean by that is we understand about your history of health, we understand about your symptoms right now, we understand everything you're doing within your life right now, okay? We also understand your goals. That's a huge part as well, right? Especially from a client's psychology perspective.
Yeah.
We want them to obviously reach their goal sooner rather than later, whilst understanding things at a deeper level. So with the peptides, again, we want to actually understand what peptide is going to be best, because there's so many different peptides out there. The peptides are absolutely incredible. We can't deny that. Obviously, they're like messengers to your cells. So they go to your cells and they signal the response in which is needed. So we have to pinpoint what peptide is going to be best for what. So coming back to the Wolverine stack, for example, some people may only need the BPC 157. So let's say obviously they've got a herniated disc. You would have seen obviously people speak about this within 4 to 8 weeks. They're hitting PBs again, despite having this herniated disc or a severe injury. They've repaired it very quickly, and that's because it's working systemically. So it's working from that perspective. But we could also look at it from the fact that it's a derived protein from the gastric juices, so it could also help you to break down, obviously, your food and therefore assimilate and absorb the nutrients better. So now I'm pinpointing why I want BPC 157 beyond just repairing. With TB500, I may actually be looking at it from a myocardial perspective, so I could be looking at it for cardiovascular health. So now it's kind of like, yes, I want you to have BPC 157, TB500, but this is why I want you to have these. We could even be looking at it from like a collagen synthesis perspective, let's say. Let's say collagen is required for someone to come back to leaky gut, it's transcellular. I might be looking at something like it's called GMHKCU.
Remembering all these letters, mate.
Yeah, it's a copper peptide. So that could then help with collagen synthesis. So if someone's aim is to, let's go like anti-aging, because we know that can trend to have better skin, for example, but they've got this transcellular leaky gut, then I'm going to go with the GHKCU over the BPC 157.
Okay.
So now it fits with your health challenges, but also the goals in which you want. So for me, peptides are amazing, but again, like I mentioned earlier, they're not going to work just in isolation. So if someone has taken peptides and they're not seeing many results from them, is that down to the peptide, or is that down to what else you're maybe not doing, which could put your health in a more favourable position?
Or just not thinking about and prioritising.
Yeah, and then there's also obviously things like dosages, timings. There's absolutely loads. For example, ideally you'd have peptides away from food, where some people may be having them with food and not realising that actually you're going to be better off having it 2 hours before food. Obviously, some people say 30 minutes, but let's say if we have it first thing in the morning, then we let the peptides become more bioavailable and absorb better, then we can have food between half an hour or 2 hours later.
Yeah, so it's everything together. It's thinking about the overall picture, you know. Like,
always. Yeah, zooming out, because when we're in something, it's very hard to see things clearly. Whereas that's where I like to say, just zoom out, really understand what's going on and treat it from a foundational perspective, understand what interventions are going to help build the blocks for you to be in a better position.
Right. Wowzers. The last thing, mate, that I wanted to go over is obviously you work with Physique Academy.
Yes.
The integration.
Proudly.
Yes, which is, you know, a full intervention. You know, you get George, you get a specified coach, AJ for your blood work. So it's literally everything that you could possibly...
It's a dream.
Yeah, everything you could possibly ask for, down to like your training, diet, and then everything physiologically as well, which obviously AJ goes over. Now, with that, when you have like these guys, especially with like we were talking about before, because most of our client base is from the United States, right? You know, 80% of our client base is from the US, and obviously with the rise of like you know, TRT, and especially in the United States with doctors prescribing that sort of thing, are you an advocate for that, or do you think the natural ways are going to be at the forefront first? You know, like if doctors have already prescribed, you know, someone TRT and said you need to be on this, where do you sort of lead that individual?
Yeah, okay. So in most situations, remember we can never say definite or absolutes, but in most situations, is TRT really needed? Probably not, because again, remember, hormones are part of that phase 5. What have they done in all the other phases to help naturally get their hormones into a more optimal position? Again, we've just looked at it through a keyhole. We've looked at hormones in isolation, forgetting about everything else. We haven't zoomed out. So for me, it's more of a last resort, and obviously it's going to be very age dependent, and it's going to depend on how much they've worked on their health already and what they've done with their health. Now, to answer your question as well, if someone's already been prescribed TRT, what I'd want to consider is how long they've been on it, because we've helped a lot of people actually come off TRT as well, because obviously there's
with natural interventions.
Yes, because there's certain situations where obviously, as we are all aware, TRT can cause more harm than good. It's very hard to optimize our health when we're on TRT. We need to, again, be taking a multifaceted approach and understanding the knock-on effects in which it can have, and understanding how it can cause certain imbalances within the body, and testosterone can be too high and it can also be too low. So how do we find the happy medium? This is why I like obviously taking the natural route first, because my job is to obviously cause no harm, take the safest and the most effective approach. There's also the aspect of what TRT are they on as well. So what I actually see a lot of times is people prescribed a certain testosterone ester, which unfortunately doesn't put them in a more favorable position. So it may be them going back. Yeah, there's all sorts. And then obviously there's looking into it from a aromatase inhibitor perspective. Which one are they on? In the USA, they have many different ones, obviously. So without going into it too in depth, again, we always need to be mindful of how much someone is on, what form they're on. So this is why, again, like for me, the biggest thing is always understanding that individual. Once we understand that, and obviously everything they're on, that's when we can then decide what the best next steps are going to be. But now you can already see, like, I'm already talking about the ester of testosterone. I'm also talking about what aromatase inhibitor they're on. There's a lot to this puzzle now because they've been prescribed something. So where I was going with that, it also depends on the half-life of that testosterone as well.
Yeah.
Because what we want to do is we don't want to just go cold turkey. We want to be very, very intelligent with how obviously we come off TRT, what we change around the dosage in, and also how we prepare the body to come off it if we're going to come off it. Because I've actually seen people just rip the Band-Aid off and it cause an absolute havoc within their body. Just stop it, yeah. And that can obviously lead to illnesses because the body has gone from a position where it's got this exogenous testosterone where you haven't got everything in a good position to have a positive rebound effect, where now they've got all the micronutrients in a good position to actually come off TRT because they've just ignored everything.
Well, your natural test is just shut off.
Yeah.
The entire, as soon as you start taking it, as soon as it kicks in, you're taking like an anthe, it's a bit longer, but if soon as you start taking any sort of test, your natural testosterone is just completely...
Enanthate would be my second to go to. Cypionate would be my first one.
Okay.
But there's a lot. I saw someone the other day, they were prescribed a testosterone and it had 3 different esters in there. And I'm like, all the half-lives are so different, but yet you've been told to dose this.
Your testosterone on a daily is going to be here, down.
Yeah, they had one ester where obviously the half-life was a lot longer. So as you can imagine, they could just take this once every week. But instead with the other ones, they should be taken more frequently.
Yeah.
So it's just a blend of all these different esters with different half-lives. So as you can imagine, their testosterone was over 100 nanomoles per litre. That, to some males, they may want to brag about it. But in reality...
Bit outrageous.
Absolutely outrageous, harmful, definitely. And this is it, like, not to go too in-depth, but we do have to understand how it can affect the body in a negative way, and obviously certain cells and growths that it can cause. So I'm not here to scare anyone, as I say, but you just want to make sure that your testosterone is still within the least associated cause of mortality ranges, even if you are on testosterone.
Yeah.
So we've actually pulled people down slowly to where their testosterone is now falling within 24 and 32 nanomoles per litre. So they're actually now within the least associated cause of mortality ranges, and they feel 10 times better than when their testosterone was higher. It's because that testosterone isn't now causing the knock-on effects where it's causing basically chaos within their body, where it could be overburdening their liver again. So therefore they're not able to obviously create the hormonal clearance in which they need to in order to optimize better. So it's the classic where too much of anything can still be a bad thing.
Yeah, balance.
Always.
Balance. To finish, mate, I know we're coming up to time, I believe.
We've smashed it, I think.
It
feels like it's been 10 minutes, whereas I know it's been longer.
It always does. It goes by like that, doesn't it? Because you're just in the zone, locking eyes.
Yeah, I'm loving it.
Back and forth. But at the end of every podcast, I always like to do just a quick fire wrap up. So does it need to be like long answers, just sentence or two? And that's pretty much it to wrap up, brother. Yeah. So what's one supplement that you think everyone should consider? I mean, again, I know
it'd be out of... there's only one. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you the second one and tell you why I pulled away from it. It'd be magnesium. Magnesium, obviously, with having so many enzymatic reactions, hundreds of enzymatic reactions within the body. Some studies will show over 300 enzymatics. Some others will show over 600 enzymatic reactions within the body. So we know that's a foundational element, because when we're stressed, comes back to stress. You're loving this, Ash. When we're stressed, it can deplete magnesium. And when we're depleted in magnesium, that can cause more stress in the body. So magnesium is one of them where I'd encourage people to take all year round. It just depends on the dose and also the administration. For example, we could even get magnesium in through like having magnesium flake baths, for example. We could use sprays. There's many different ways to get it in. So again, it comes down to blood work to actually finding out how deficient you are in magnesium and where your levels are at, not just through serum magnesium. Remember, RBC magnesium is more accurate. Okay. So magnesium. The second one I was going to mention was omega-3s. The only problem with is there's a lot of omega-3 products out there which can oxidize before they reach the intended destination. Yeah. So with that, what we actually want to be looking into is someone having an adequate level of zinc, magnesium, and B6, as well as having a certain amount of antioxidant protection with the omega-3 to help with the absorption and to help it reach the cell membranes. So omega-3s can be fantastic. They can help with so many different things, where we look at it from a neurological perspective, where we look at it from an anti-inflammatory perspective, where we look at it from a lipid perspective. It's very multifaceted, but you still need your zinc, magnesium, and B6 in a good position in order to help to reduce the risk with omega-3s. And magnesium is in there. Magnesium is one of them where I'm like, it can cause so many different enzymatic reactions in the body. It makes sense. We just want to make sure the form's right for someone. That was longer than 1 or 2 sentences, so I apologize.
It's all right, brother. It's all right, mate. One simple lifestyle tweak that gives the biggest return on investment.
Comes back to stress, doesn't it? So if we're being more specific with that, what I would say, because I believe this is one of the biggest challenges without realizing in the world for some people, is not being present. So as I said earlier, we're all very go, go, go. Like even on the drive here, I'm probably thinking about the podcast, when in reality, it'd be nice to look outside, look at the trees. We're in Bolton or near Bolton. We've never been here before. So it'd be nice to see. Yeah, so it'd be nice to see the scenery here rather than thinking about that. And that way my stress would be reduced even more, because I wouldn't be thinking about the future. Instead, I'm present. And if we look into present, at the end of the day, it's a gift, isn't it? So I'd really encourage more people to be present. And that way, that could be one simple way for you to reduce your stress. I've had a lot of clients where I'm like, maybe walking or going on breath work. But if you're that stressed, anyone will know doing breath work and going for a walk isn't going to do jack, because they're still thinking about all these other things which are stressing them out. So therefore, at that moment in time, they're really not truly present. So that would be the biggest driver, the biggest thing in which I'd encourage everyone to do, is be more present within your life, with your partners, with the people around you. Enjoy it. We're only here for a short period of time.
You only got one life, brother. Okay. Top 3 foods for gut and hormone health. 3 foods, go.
Easy.
You can only pick 3.
Can I throw a beverage in there?
Yeah, well, do whatever you want, me.
So that counts outside the foods. So apple cider vinegar would be one. I'd just be cautious. Make sure you test apple cider vinegar first, okay? So have it on an empty stomach. If it causes a burning sensation in the stomach, it's not for you. The hydrochloride in there could basically cause more harm than good, and that could tell us about early insights with potentially H. pylori, stomach ulcers and things like that. But if you're all good with apple cider vinegar, that can help so much when it comes to stomach acid, which can then obviously help with the rest of your body when it comes to breaking down foods. So that's just a side piece. The foods in which I would say they're going to be, I'm going to go with red meat. I was going to go with beef organs, but I understand not everyone's going to have organs. It doesn't have to be beef. It could be lamb as well, or there's even some chicken organs. Organ meat, red meat, I'm going to have that as just one, because obviously they're so micronutrient dense. Okay. The next one is going to be something that I'd say is a choleretic and cholesterol rich foods. What that basically means is it helps with the liver and it helps with the gallbladder. So again, it's part of the digestive process. So what we'd be looking into here is ginger. And I'm not just saying this because I'm ginger, guys, okay? Ginger is an incredible food. It can help with so much. So again, it'd be one of them things in which I'd have before a meal to help with the natural stimulation of digestive enzymes. The third one is dun. What am I gonna go for here, food wise?
Mate, that's. I mean, you've
Yeah,
given them more than enough context, mate. Yeah, we'll
so.
call it apple cider vinegar, mate.
Yeah,
we'll call it apple cider
I'm
vinegar.
always mindful with what I give because I wouldn't want everyone to go and smash it.
And again, you know, this is this disclaimer. Everything in this podcast, probably should have said this at the start, but it's not specific to anyone. You know, like this is just general insight, research backed, everything like that. All right. So, but mate, that's gonna call it. Thank you so much for joining me, mate, and coming down, spending the time, mate, on the podcast. Hopefully, guys, for anyone watching, you have found a lot of value and insight and education, knowledge, more so from this episode. But the next guest I'm going to have on is Chris Aldred, Coach Chris. But yeah, thank you again, brother. Thank you so much for coming on, mate. Lots of love. See you in the next one, guys.
Ta-ra.
Peace.